Hi everybody, my name is Alan. On behalf of the crew, I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Bridging Heaven and Earth. You know, I guess in everybody's lives there are ups and downs, hills and valleys, and joys and sorrows, and for us here at Bridging Heaven and Earth, we too have had those kinds of human experiences, those kind of dualities over the last period since we've done the last show. A dear comrade, a dear friend, a dear associate on Bridging Heaven and Earth. You know, she was working so hard on the fundraiser, Gay Boddick. She, you know, had dreams, she had hopes. She had a desire to know more. She had a desire to help with the foundation and help it grow and help it realize the dreams of spreading that vibration of love just across the planet, across the universe. And then one day, you know, she called 911. They try to revive her, and the stories are different maybe, but ultimately she passed from us. So for all of us, isn't that really the way it is that for all of us, we're here today and gone tomorrow. It's just which day. So are we appreciating the days that we have? Are we fundraising? Are we in this life knowing that joy? And, you know, certainly for her, I hope that her last days and all the energy we were putting on into this fundraiser we were doing, into this collaboration with so many extraordinary people across the planet, was giving her that joy. And that joy that when she passed, she knew the joy of this life. And she had just had enough and had helped in whatever way she could here, and perhaps could help more, as they say, from the other side. And so we had that experience, but we also had this incredible collaborative joy in doing the show with such extraordinary crew people and guests who fly in from all over. And the collaboration to do this fundraiser and to do the new journal, the Bridging Heaven and Earth journal, to do the new Bridging Heaven and Earth mandala. And the guests tonight, Michael and Raphaelle Tamura, I mean, really in some ways were the catalyst for the fundraiser, because they said that they wanted to do a workshop, and the workshops are so popular, and they wanted to donate the proceeds of the workshop to the Bridging Heaven and Earth Foundation. And then that started a momentum. And then all the things, and all the shows, and this is, you know, we've done this is the 141st show, and all the shows have led to that momentum, the momentum to enliven the vibration of love. I mean, we are made of that love, and how can we more and more, and every one of us, come into that experience more and more, in that realization, and not think of ourselves as different, not in any significant way. And that is the glory of this time, that we are coming out of the duality of the pain and suffering and the joy into a higher state of bliss, into a higher state of knowing the real truth. And on the last few shows I've been talking, and if people who are getting the newsletters, I know a lot of you are, we've been talking so much about the desire for us here at Bridging Heaven and Earth, and all of you, really, all the guests and all the audience, to bring each of our points of love, each of our gifts that we've acquired to this point, and bring them together as one, for one project, for two projects, for 5 minutes, for 50 years, but without ego, with that love, and just enliven it, and just spread it, and bring those gifts to a place where we can come into that recognition more and more. And I know that's what Gay was trying to do. I mean, she was spending so much time, you know, organizing this and organizing that. And that's really why we do every show. That's why Michael and Raphaelle Tamura came in to do this, to do the fundraiser tomorrow. I mean, this is tomorrow. I know the show is shown all over the country, so this is June 14th, 2002, and the fundraiser's tomorrow. All the proceeds go to the Bridging Heaven Earth Foundation. There's incredible music, food, live and silent auctions, incredible donations from just friends and family from all over the world. And starting with this workshop by Michael and Raphaelle about spiritual tools to heal yourself and others, to bring us into that recognition. For those of you who've seen the show before, know Michael and Raphaelle. They're spiritual teachers, they're clairvoyants. Michael has written an extraordinary new book, You Are the Answer, which is a guide, an amazing guide. It's just a guide to entering that sacred dance of life and fulfilling your soul purpose. And it's an amazing experience. And as we're speaking now, and what we're going to have on this show is Michael doing a healing, doing 3 healings actually. And he's starting and he's doing it now. And we're also going to have a video, the Oh Happy Day, because we've gotten so many calls about it. So join me and let's just go. Let's just do it. Let's come together, all of us, and spread it, enliven it, bring it forth. So as we normally do, we'll have a short meditation, and then we'll have Michael doing healings. He's already started one, but we'll have the rest, and then Raphaelle will come on and Michael will come on. We'll have the video. So really, it's an opportunity again. So please join me. Okay, thank you. So now we're going to have Michael, who is one of the most extraordinary healers I've come across for sure. And he's going to do 3 separate types of healing. And one has already been in progress as we were setting up today. He's going to do it on Charles Newswanger, which I guess he'll be the first one you see, Simona Manini, and Jeannie Holbrook. And then Raphaelle will be with us and we'll start talking about what Michael's doing and how he's doing it. So, Michael?
That. Just finishing up the aura here.
That would be great.
Hey, first, I'd like to talk a little bit about healing in the sense of healing is creating change and moving energy. So Michael has a variety of techniques that he uses as he gives healing, some hands-on, as you saw. Working with Charles, it was not hands-on, it was hands-off. And right now what he's doing is he is working on taking Simona as a spiritual being. We're spiritual beings in bodies. Sometimes we tend to float out. And he's bringing her back to the center of her head and clearing the energy out of her head that's not hers. It helps her to be there more when you're in the center of your head. It's the driver's seat of the body. You can think more clearly, you can see your truth more clearly. So.
And would there be a reason he would do a different one on Charles than Simona?
Well, for tonight, he's showing a variety of techniques, but depending on what's needed, any technique works.
So when Michael was determining which he was doing, he knew the people involved and he was picking what would be best suited for them this evening?
Yes. So when he was working with Charles, one of the things that I was watching was he was plugging in one of his spirit guides in each of his hands. So he had 2 spirit guides he was working with. But right now the spirit guides are moved back, and he's actually working with Simona's energy and some of the Christ light energy coming through his hands. And what he's doing is connecting up. There's connections from the forehead to the energy channels in the body. And he's connecting them up so that her Kundalini energy, which is a type of energy at the base of the spine that goes up, can go up clearly. Sometimes that energy flows up and gets blocked up in some of the energy channels.
And that's just from the normal day-to-day conceptual ways we live our lives.
Yes.
It just gets blocked up.
It just gets blocked up. And in this case, I've watched him do this particular healing he's doing on Simona quite a few times. And usually he does this one when the center of the head is really blocked up. And the person really needs to run their energy a little bit more up through
The
their
blockheads.
head. The blockheads.
Oh, sorry, Simona.
Amusement is very good in healing. It helps to bring the energy up. In fact, it's the best vibration to give a healing in.
Do a lot of people seem to take it very seriously? They take a lot of things very
Yes. And part of the problem is when somebody really needs some kind of healing, if they're depressed or in pain or whatnot, that's a very tough vibration to start the healing in. So the best thing to do is to be able to be in amusement and be able to laugh at oneself a little bit more. And that vibration is high enough where that healing vibration can really start to take. Otherwise, sometimes the healing is done, and if the person hasn't raised their energy, at least to the lowest vibration should be amusement for healing. If they don't do that, sometimes they throw the healing away.
It's just kind of like water off a duck's back.
Right.
They're just not open at all to have it come in a way.
That's right.
And the stronger the healer is, like Michael being a strong healer, he has a better chance of finding the one little slot that he
That's
can
right. That's right.
Right. And he's doing the same type of thing now, to clearing the blockhead.
Yes.
I see.
And what if you can watch, I believe the camera's on Simona, you can actually see some of the changes physically in her as he's working.
So, like the facial muscles are loosening
And relaxing.
And
And
relaxing.
the energy is moving out.
When Michael made that more aggressive or more energetic movement, what was he doing, or what did he?
He's helping to pull that Kundalini through so that it can really clear those channels. And what he does is he actually does this a couple of times to make sure it's completely clear.
And I actually was talking to Michael a little earlier, maybe we'll talk about it when he comes on the set, but your normal healings are an hour or 2 hours, so this would just be like an hors d'oeuvre?
Yes, that's a good way to put it. Although what he just did with both Charles and Simona can be enough for one person for a day.
For a time.
Absolutely.
I see.
Sometimes when we have done large groups of people, that's all the time we have. And so after 1 or 2 or 3, the energy gets pretty intense. And so the healings move faster, and even though they're shorter, they can still be just as intense as, say, a longer one.
Now, would you say at the beginning of healing that one of the potential problems a healer could have is they take on the energy, the blockheadedness, the stuck up areas? So how do you learn to kind of let it go through you or clean
That's a
it?
very good question. The teacher that we had many, many years ago, Louis Bostwick, created a set of tools for healers, because that's one of the biggest problems healers have is we get excited about healing, but then we take on the energy of the world, and we end up on the floor crawling around sick ourselves. Michael has some absolutely wonderful stories about how he started out that included, his question was, how do I heal someone without getting sick? And so when we started to learn, we learned the tools of being able to be neutral and be able to give a healing without taking it on in our body or in our energy field. Or
So in other words, you would almost have to be completely open, so it's like a complete flow through.
Well, that's one of the tools. That's the tool we would call body of glass. But there's other tools, such as the grounding from the base of the spine to the center of the earth, as well as some protection tools. In some cases, when the energy is very intense, sometimes it does get in the healer space, but if the healer is more aware, it's pretty easy to just, a few minutes after the healing,
Kind of shake it off or shake it out.
Exactly, and you might even see him do that a few times, especially when he's working on Jeannie over here.
And what is he doing now that was different from Simona or Charles?
I'll have to look over here because I wasn't even being able to see. It looked like he was grounding her. And
So is Michael, would you say Michael's finished with the healing?
it appears he is. Now when he worked on Jeannie, he worked a little bit more on her aura field.
I see. Okay, so maybe what we'll do is have the video now, and then we'll have Michael come on the set and talk a little bit about what he did and how he did it. Okay, so we're going to have the Oh Happy Day video, and we also have the foundation promos at the end of that. Now this was by Leeza, and it was from the Leeza Bridging Heaven and Earth CD. It was written by Leeza. It was written by myself and Leeza. So whenever we're ready, the Oh Happy Day video.
Oh, happy day, no more painful walls divide us. Oh, happy day, it's a new millennium. Oh, happy day, with spirit that guide us. Oh, happy day. We've been lost in our illusions. We were brainwashed from the start. We've been captured by contradictions that confuse a genuine heart. We've been pieces of a puzzle with a picture so unclear. We could never make much sense of how to love, what to feel. I believe we can do it. I think we stand a chance. It just takes a bit of knowing it's like learning how to dance. Since we are the world, we can change the world. Oh, happy day, see that kid out on the sidewalk. We
everybody. We're in the set with Michael and Raphaelle. Great. So when you were doing the healings, why don't you kind of go through, we heard Raphaelle's explanation of parts of it.
Of each
So,
of the
yeah,
healings.
each, and why you did what you did, and why you picked those people to do that.
Well, with Charles, the first healing, which was mostly done by the time the camera came on, was a healing like Raphaelle explained. I had my healing guides in my hands. This is a type of healing that we teach people. In fact, tomorrow at the workshop, we'll be teaching some of this as well. And as I was working with my healing guides and directing where Charles's energies were blocked and some of the areas I worked on his aura, where there's pain that's held in like ridges. So I was taking off some of those energy ridges and getting the energy to flow more. Areas where there's tears in the aura, where energy seeps out of people. This is one of the things that every single person I've ever worked on who had cancer, this is where it starts, with a torn energy field.
And how does that happen, Michael?
Often it happens in destructive levels of relationships where somebody gets really angry at the other person and tears out their communication line from them that they might have had established for a long time. And if that doesn't get repaired in the aura, it leaves a gash or a tear.
And most people don't have the tools themselves to repair it, or their lives don't line up with repairing it?
Exactly. If the person doesn't have to repair it this way, but they have to be able to resolve their considerations within themselves, then it can start to heal. But sometimes when that tear happens and nothing's done about it, and other people's energies, the toxicity starts to build up in there, there has to be a lot of other things to, say, produce cancer underlying it. But the thing that kicks it off is always a tear. And so when I'm doing that type of a healing, like I was doing with Charles, I was looking to see if there's any kind of tears, any kind of holes in the aura, and sealing them all up. I was also working with the chakras, the energy centers in the body, and see how the conditions of their flow. And in his case, there was some problems from when his father had heart problems, and he wanted to heal his father of it, so he took on some of the pain, some of the blockage in there, so I repaired that and took that out. This is real common amongst people who are healers themselves and unwittingly will take on other people's energies, difficult energies and problems, to try to heal them. And then they don't get rid of it, then they're stuck with it. Part of what I was doing also was grounding each one of them. I was grounding them. This is another thing we'll be teaching tomorrow, is to ground off all the energies. Like electrical circuit, where the grounding is, all the excess goes down. With Simona in the middle over there, it's a different type of healing. I was working with her Kundalini energy. This is the energy that generally sits in the base of the spine. First thing I was doing when I had my hand on her head was to clear her, the analytical part in the brain gets clogged up. It gets clogged up with so many thoughts and other people's thoughts and everything that she picks up. And so I was clearing those mental images from that area. She might have seen it as little sparks or flashes going on through her head, and that was getting that energy out of there. And then I worked on inside the tailbone. There's these power amplifiers, and they get a little bit jammed up and things like that. So I was repairing those and balancing those up. And then once I got the energy channels cleared up, I brought her Kundalini energy up from the base of her spine, through her spinal column, through the head and out the top of the head. And when that happens, it flushes all the resistances and grief and pain and anger that's built up around there, and flushes it all through.
Like flushing the toilet.
Yeah, it's
all the bad crap kind of gets out of it.
It just gets flushed right out.
Right.
And then the very last part was I filled her head up with energy, and here she's already wanting, as a soul, wanting to have her freedom. So when I filled up her head with energy, she wants to be back in there. And then once I filled it up to the full, I pulled it all out, and then she comes back into the center of her head and re-owns it. And so there's much more of her behind her eyes and in charge. And then with Jeannie at the end over there was a different kind of a healing. This is the healing using the energy of what we might call the Holy Spirit. And there I worked on the karmic ties she had with her mother and other people that carries over from other lifetimes, and cleared out the karmic, unresolved karmic blockages, if you will, and cleared that out. So
okay, maybe Raphaelle can answer this question. When Michael is doing, or anybody is doing those types of healings, would he or she be looking at the person the same way? I mean, would you use the same sight, kind of? So you would see or would you always see the T-E-A-R? Obviously, from New York, you can't pronounce it worth a lick. Would you look the same way to see the same things, or how would you determine which one you would use if you came up to somebody in the audience or out in Million Land where I have all the viewers?
Well, if you were asking me personally, it would be just intuitively which one would feel right or which one would seem right. Now, if I was aware, for instance, someone had a lot of tears in their aura, like Michael was talking about, I'd want to use.
When you say aware, would you be aware because your sight is at the point where you would look at an aura, you would look at a being and see, oh, a tear here, a tear.
Yes, I understand what you're saying.
A rip. Well, thank you. I obviously need another word. Would there be rips in different places? Would you see that? Because, like, say I wouldn't see that, or somebody else wouldn't see that necessarily.
Well, I see it when I look clairvoyantly, but a lot of times if I'm working with my hands, I can also feel it. Because it's kind of like when you feel someone's aura with your hand, and anybody can do this when they tune their attention into their hand, that energy is real smooth, and all of a sudden there's nothing there, and that's usually an indication of a tear. And you can actually kind of move your hand around and feel where that hole is, and then just
so you can both see it and feel it and almost intuit it. So
that's
you can
right.
do it with your eyes closed.
Yes.
After so much training and gifts and all that.
And even with the eyes open, really. I don't use my physical eyes even when they're open to do the reading and need it. That's Michael.
And so intuitively, you know which type of remedy would be needed for each person, and that's the area you would focus on. Now these took, like we talked about a little earlier, 2 or 3 minutes or 5 minutes at the most, and you do healing for like 1 or 2 hours or even longer, as we know. And so that you would just get more and more into it, and more healing, deeper and deeper. Would that be the way you would do it?
Not necessarily. The ones that take longer, the 1 or 2 hour healings, involve a lot of communication, verbal communication. And sometimes the communication, well, all healing is communication on some level or another. And oftentimes a person needs a lot more communication and verbal communication to understand and bring their conscious awareness to certain problems or areas that they need to take a look at themselves and contemplate. And so the 1 or 2 hours often has a lot more of the verbal communication, time to understand things. And in between, as I'm doing that, I'm also working on the energetic levels as well.
And would you say that there's some level, especially for people who haven't done this before, haven't had healings, there's some level of creating a space of safety that they feel open enough to, somebody...
Exactly. Yeah, and that's a lot of times the communication provides some of that safety, getting to know the person and things. And you guys were talking about in the beginning the humor levels, and that's so important. When we start to enter into the spiritual realms, everybody gets so serious because, it's associated on a body level with death. Speaking of spirit, and
that's the illusion of it.
Yes, and so then the fear comes up, and And this is why, healers are not threatening people, but a lot of fear comes up when you're in the presence of a strong healer, and that has to be worked out as well.
That's right.
So part of what you're doing is allowing the person to feel free enough and safe enough to basically allow you to help them heal themselves.
That's correct. And sometimes, like Jesus said, your faith has healed thee. There's been healings where I shake somebody's hand and boom, the cancer's gone. I didn't do anything. It's times where somebody was in the middle of an accident and they'll think about me and they get an instant healing. It's how much a person can really receive, how much they can really have, and it's not even the healer does the healing per se. We're just there to bring this person, how should I say, spiritual beingness back to themselves.
And both of you, and I know Michael in particular, has had a long history of you teach people to be healers. You started a lot of psychic institutes, and you went, and now both of you teach and give healings and readings. So, there are specific, no matter how gifted somebody is and because you came upon it before you went, you came upon it, you had this gift, but then you went to
get more training
and practice and practice and practice and see all the different. We talked the other day that you've done, I don't know what we came up with, 6,000 healings or some enormous number in a way, and yet still every time there's something new to see.
Absolutely.
And depth of so you also teach healers, besides giving healings and readings, you teach healers to be healers, and that's part of the beginning workshop we're doing at the fundraiser tomorrow, which is tools for healing yourself and others, which would be some of the tools that we talked about. Right. Maybe talk about some of the other tools that you would, kind of a little synopsis. Don't give it all away.
Well, one of the ones will be having to do with working with the spirit guides. And some people get very excited about doing this, and other people actually become afraid of it, because spirit guides are disincarnate beings. And so some people think of them as dead people, and that's pretty scary to some people. And others get very excited because they know that they've had spirits around them and they want to learn how to communicate with them. And what's really fun about how we teach it is we keep it fun, we keep it simple, and we keep it real. So it's not anything, we don't darken the room or anything like that. It's sort of like learning how to talk to people, only you just can't see them physically, and work with them just like people.
So in like a 3-hour workshop, you can have people who hadn't done that before start to do that, because it's that thin membrane, and we just come up against it because we don't know how to get through it. But once you know the way to get through it.
And most of the times, it's not a process of people opening up and developing this. They already have it. It's just starting to discern how much they're using their abilities all the time. It's just that they're looking somewhere else so they don't notice it. It would be like if you had 50 different radios on different stations going on in the room at the same time, it would be just noise. But if you realize that, all these radios are on, and you decide to pick one and tune into that one, you might hear beautiful music or the news station or whatever. And that's kind of how it is in spirit. Everything's happening all at once. And a lot of times people think the thoughts that are going through their minds are their own thoughts. Most of them, unless a person's very aware and has cleared up their mind a lot, most of the thoughts most people are thinking aren't theirs.
So they're the cultures, the parents, all those ideas that we got when we were really young, and and we didn't really buy them. It's just that they became ours.
Yeah, and it's, again, if you're not paying attention, and the TV is on, and next thing you're humming the commercial jingles, and you weren't even paying attention. And that's not your own thought.
We were talking the other day how, just by watching TV sometimes, all those things about anthrax and the generals and the war on terror, that someone who isn't fearful or afraid is all of a sudden anxious.
Yeah.
And it can make you just tremendously fearful.
Yeah, it's all vibration. So it's like the air you're breathing. You know, if it's really smoky or smoggy day, you start coughing because you're taking that in. And all the vibrations of people's thoughts and feelings, emotions, emoting, TV, whatever is just bombarding psychically. And how much of that is a person taking it on? And they take it home, and next thing they know, they're acting that way.
And also in terms of tools, I know you've just finished a new book that's, you know, I read The Galleys and it was just unbelievable then, it's unbelievable now. You Are the Answer. So why don't you talk a little bit about how you work that and how you allowed that book to be another way for you to, help people have that experience.
Yeah, well, that book is kind of two main parts. The main part of the book, of course, is the You Are the Answer, and then the appendix has a spiritual toolkit that has many of these tools and a way to practice them. The bulk of the book has to do with your soul purpose. A lot of times people consider the soul purpose or life purpose as, what is it? I know I have a purpose in life, but I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it. And the reason they can't put their finger on it is because they're trying to intellectually label their purpose like this is my job, And some people might think my purpose in life is to be a healer, but it's not. Being a healer and practicing this healing way of living is a means to fulfilling my purpose in life. It's not the purpose itself.
So if somebody held a gun to your head and said, what is your purpose? I mean, you might otherwise not, your purpose is maybe to be in every, or whatever. Mm-hmm. If somebody held a gun to your head or held a gun to her head, you might be more apt to...
Tell a bad joke.
How would you put it?
Every human being's purpose is to become him or herself, to fully be who we are. And so, on one hand, everyone's purpose is exactly the same. But since we're unique, each one of us is going to go about it differently. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so
and
that's
you would
why,
say the same thing?
Oh, yes.
So then, how do we... It's easy to say, okay, we have to be fully
that's
ourselves.
like the old joke, that's easy for you.
You to say. And what it is well, basically healing, to me, the bulk of healing is learning. And the bulk of learning is to get to know yourself.
And almost unlearning what we think we are.
That's right.
Exactly.
So
we've been told,
Right.
You're stupid, you're ugly, whatever. and you have to unlearn that. You have to peel those layers of lies.
Or that
away
you're a
from
male,
yourself.
that you're, this religion, that you come
Exactly.
from this country, all those things that harden us like.
Exactly. And puts us into a little container. And so we get out of the container and we find that we peel these layers of lies and beliefs that, it works sometimes if you're trying to use it for certain things, but you'll find out when you start to peel it off, and this is what happens in meditation, is these lies start to peel off, and that's why so many people have a hard time meditating or just even being quiet, because when they start to relax and they start to be quiet, all these thoughts and I gotta do this, all that stuff comes up, and those are just the peelings. And when you get all the peelings off, you become a lot more appealing.
Right. Michael did it, and Raphaelle warned us. So they know each other quite well. Okay, so maybe Raphaelle, why don't you kind of ask everybody what they experienced? The people who were healed and Charles, and see how that goes.
All right. No?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Charles, you want to talk about what you experienced during your healing?
I felt a lot of relief and smoothness all of a sudden. While I was watching, I could see colors changing in the background. I could see the auras of the camera people differently. Tremendous amount of energy flowing through me, very warm. In fact, it's even warmer now than it was before. Very centering, and I feel a lot of relief. And it's curious to hear about detaching what I've taken on from my father, because just today I've been working on releasing those attachments that I've had all my life to my father, and needless to say, I'm not done yet.
Well, maybe now.
Maybe now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a tremendous feeling.
Yep. You look right to me. Simona.
Well, it was very interesting. In the beginning, even before I start actually putting his hand over my shoulder, I felt a little bit like pain or a little bit of a physical sensation at the bottom of my spine, even before you start describing what was going on. And then I saw this explosion of little, looked like fireworks, little lights inside my head, although I had my eyes closed. And I was wondering what was going on. And then when I started working on my forehead, I felt the tension releasing. I was stuck in traffic while I was driving here, and I was building up a lot of stress because of that. And all of a sudden I started releasing. And everything became quiet. I felt very, very relaxed until the end, where I saw this little white light, and I started saying hello to it. It was, behind my eyes, with my eyes closed, and I started saying hello to it. And that was really probably my own energy, and felt very comfortable, actually.
Simona makes an important point about when we're getting ready to give healings, a lot of time the healing starts before they even physically arrive where we are.
And does that have to do with the healer or the healee? As
Both.
Both,
Both, because the agreement's already made to work, and so we're already working together in spirit. We call it being lit up for some people, because they walk in kind of, out of it almost.
Really? Ready to go.
That's right. And actually where the healing is already started. And it's almost
Would you
like...
say the healing starts when somebody's open enough to do it? It's almost like prayer. So if they can come in with that openness, then already they're on the path to whatever is blocked up can now flow freely.
And oftentimes we work in the astral planes even nights before as well, because sometimes I'll even remember in my dream space. And then it's like doing it a second time when we actually do it in the body.
Wow.
So that's kind of fun too. All right,
how about Jeannie?
I initially felt energy from his hands, and as he moved his hands, it was a fluttering through my aura, and I felt a clearing in a sense, and a fullness, like I began to be filled up, and I could feel then energy in my own hands and around the edges of my body and my aura. And after I was full, as he began to walk away, I felt an intense heat, but at the same time it was light and healing, and the adjective graceful comes to mind. And it felt as if I was radiating that and radiating energy from my hands. And it happened so quickly and easily. It was, and then a deep peace. And there was also a light. I saw a light.
Wow, that's magnificent. So, you would say that anybody who's open to it could become a healer. Is a healer, could become a healer, could heal themselves, could be more in tune. Why don't you talk a little about that, both of you?
Well, everyone has the potential within themselves to heal, because healing comes from within. And when I talk about certain people being healers, I might say, oh, that person's much more of a healer. And what happens is...
Mission impossible around here.
What
Not
happens
to say we have a
it's
wacky
a calling
bunch around here at all. We got a lot of important people around, that's for sure. They're not going to shut their phone off.
So when I say somebody's a healer, I'm looking at the soul. I'm looking at the spiritual being, and if the desire to heal, desire to share healing, to help other people become well in some way or another, if that's a major portion of their beingness, then I say, okay, that person's a healer. And even though everyone has the potential for healing, that's
So
how
I mean, it's almost like that they're like tall. That's their kind of their destiny.
Yes, it's
And you would see that more in.
some people as
Okay,
than
now
others.
looking at a person, what would you, with your vision in that way, what would you see that would allow you to say that
Say
person?
that person's a healer. Well, a healer is a person who is a soul, may not be, completely finished with their evolvement here, but the larger percentage of them as a being is interested in working the rest of their karma, interested in working the rest of their spiritual growth here by helping other people in some way or another, and how that looks.
And that
like,
would look different than somebody else.
exactly. It's brighter. That's one way to describe it. The quality of the light of that being is different. Certain different coloration.
Is that what they would call different auras?
Ultimately, but the part where I would be looking is more in the spiritual aura, not the aura around the body that most people talk about auras, but this is more the center of the being has this brightness, and there's different coloration that emanates from there, and the more creative that being is, ultimately around the aura around the body will have more colors. So let's say the average person out there in the world walking around would have maybe 4 colors in their aura. And then when a person starts to have about 7 colors in their aura, you find people who are very, very creative, quite far along in their spiritual growth. And then sometimes you'll come around and see people with 3 colors in their aura, and they're usually in some kind of an institution. Like sometimes you go to an institution for the criminally insane, and you'll see
Public access television. One of the two, and then you get down to 2, and then you get public.
So those are some of the ways to tell too.
Now, okay, so you would look at the soul in that
Yes.
way, and you'd see this is healer energy. Now, what else could you see that this person's? What other energies would be?
Well, one of the things is the external personality often reveals it. You can even see this in children. The ones that are running around trying to make everybody happy or make them laugh, or for one person described to me one time when I'm a lady that I moved in with, and she said it was the funniest thing, and I didn't even remember this until she told me, is when I was going to roommate with this lady for a while, and when I moved in, she said I had the biggest garbage bag full of wrapping paper she'd ever seen in her life. And because I like to buy gifts for people when I can afford it. And it's not about trying to get people to like me because I buy gifts for them. It's just something I like to do. And so a lot of times people who are givers in that sort of sense, giving their time and their energy, even sometimes a housewife who they just want to give everything to their children, and anything having to do with helping their children grow up correctly can be a good healer. And so personalities sometimes can do it. But also, sometimes simply just being around someone, you can tell by the feel of their energy. A lot of healers are very hot. When I was talking about feeling the energy, most people that are sensitive to even hot and cold, if you're standing in line next to someone who's really hot, there's one of two things: either they're sick and have a fever, or they're a healer that's completely turned on healing everybody around them. And being a sensitive person like I am, I can usually tell if the person is ill, because I can tell my healing energy starts to go to them, or they're the healer and I can feel their healing going to me. So that's some of the ways I can tell.
So, how would it look if somebody didn't have this particular form of, that this wasn't their destiny, say, to be, a physical healer or a healer in that way, but they had other types of gifts to reveal to the world? How would that look, and how would that manifest, and how would you help that person come to that fullness?
Well, some people have a lot of karmic cycles to complete. Karma is essentially whenever a person has a very strong desire, that starts a cycle of action that starts to have a life of its own. And even if that person forgets about it, if they didn't resolve it, it keeps on coming around, kind of the what goes around comes around kind of a thing. And so even if it were from other lifetimes, that you carry it inside of you as a incomplete cycle of action. When I look at people, there's these incomplete seeds that haven't been fully manifested, and so I'll take a look at those and see what do they need to do to complete those. So those are people who are struggling a lot because they might want, right now, they might like certain things and they might want to do this and want to do that, but they have so much karmic levels that the karma says, no,
There's always resistance to almost everything they do.
this is what you're going to do. This is what you got to finish before you can have all of those other things. And so there's some of those.
And healings can help remove some of these karmic ties.
Yeah, some karmic levels.
It doesn't have to be time and...
No, it doesn't have to be pain and suffering and all of these things, although there have been people I've worked with who have... The karma cycle can be removed, but if that's tied up with a lesson they have to learn as a spiritual being, then you can't take that away from them. It wouldn't be good to take it away from them, but you can help them with, a healer can help that person with the enormity of the pain or suffering to make it easier, to lighten up the load. But you might not be able to take all of it away because they still have to go through the process to learn something.
Would part of a healing and a good healing would be like to shine the light where there was darkness? So what was just unknown and just driving a person uncontrollably, unconsciously, would now at least have some light of day, some understanding, some wisdom attached
and
to
this
it.
is one of the things, for example, you do a lot. Sometimes you may communicate it verbally, and other times you might just be sitting there, but the nature of your energy, your particular energy as a soul, this is what you tend to do, is you shine the light on particular areas where a person is covering over with lies. And so this is why sometimes a person might get uncomfortable, because something is being exposed that they might not want to be exposed. But ultimately it's going to heal them, because those lies are what's keeping them from themselves. Other people shine their light of a different way, where they bring out certain, say, what is more...
Are we coming to the end? I guess we're coming to the end, so good night. God bless you. We got a minute left. All right, yeah. Okay, well, let me finish up, because I want to talk about, obviously this was an extraordinary experience, and there was so much to be learned from Michael and Raphaelle. And as I said at the open, there was just an opportunity tomorrow. If people are in this area, in the Santa Barbara area, June 15th, Michael and Raphaelle are having a workshop to teach tools for spiritual healing of yourself and others. So the opportunity is there. There's going to be an amazing bunch of stuff. Carlos Reynosa, Suzanne Tang, Kate Bennett, just music and art and just wonderful people wanting to share, wanting to collaborate. So if anybody wants to do it, just contact us, Alan 687-2053, and we'll let you know about it. Good night. God bless you. We love you. Good night.